Odessa trace of the Big Bang. According to historians of science, there was only one person in the 20th century who made three Nobel Prize-winning discoveries. This is Georgy Gamov. His theories of alpha decay, the hot universe, and the genetic code not only defined science in the 20th century, but also set the direction for its development in the 21st. Georgy Gamov was born in Odessa, Ukraine. He spent his childhood in Odessa, became interested in astronomy, and entered his first year of university there. It was 1920, a hungry and cold year. There was no light in the classrooms, but mathematics lectures, among others, were held under any conditions. According to the professor, multidimensional figures could not be drawn on the blackboard anyway. Therefore, they could be studied in poor light. A few students, including Gamov, remembered the professor's phrase well. Imagination is more important than illumination. Physics was not taught at Odessa University, so Gamov continued his studies in St. Petersburg. There he found himself in the company of young, talented scientists, whose names have become famous around the world. A very cheerful and witty company, I must say. At that time they started the famous magazine Physicist's Joke. However, the students had time not only to joke, but also to study and publish their first articles. They worked hard at the forefront of 20th century science. At the age of 24, Gamov's presentation at a conference in Göttingen caused a sensation. He was invited to do an internship in Denmark, Holland, and Great Britain. At 28, he became the youngest corresponding member of the USSR Academy of Sciences. He often went to the movies and would like to have a motorcycle. But the world was changing. Gamov was banned from attending foreign conferences and was not allowed to leave the country. This led to a protest, and the scientists decided to leave the Soviet Union. After spending several years in research centers in Europe, he finally settled in the United States. He was not interested in carefully developing his narrow niche in science. He pushed his way into new spaces, where others would follow. Gamov not only changed his location, but also his research interests. Nuclear physics was replaced by nuclear astronomy and cosmology. And here, too, he made a series of discoveries that transformed the understanding of the stellar life cycle. One of his colleagues wrote, "Sometimes it seems that George spends all his time and energy on jokes and witticisms, and that his revolutionary work on the decay of atomic nuclei is just a byproduct of his activities." But as a result, the theory of the hot universe was born, called the Big Bang Theory. Well, the Big Bang. Even in the frivolous name of the most grandiose event of the universe, you can hear a hint of Odessa humor. And that's not all the twists and turns in George Gamov's career. At the age of 50, he suddenly became interested in genetics and created a scheme for implementing the genetic code. It may seem that the life of stars and the structure of DNA molecules have little in common. However, Gamov saw connections between phenomena on a global scale and did not limit himself to one area of research. This was called the Odessa style of solving scientific problems. He generated many new scientific ideas that led to revolutionary discoveries. George Gamov never became a Nobel laureate, but thanks to his ideas, at least a dozen scientists received this most prestigious scientific prize. To the sorrow of Ukrainians, the former resident of Odessa, a free artist in the world of politicized science, laid the foundations not of his native, but of American astrophysics and cosmology, with several scientific breakthroughs. And yet, Odessa remembers Georgy Gamov for more than 20 years. The International Gamov Conference, the largest astronomical conference in Ukraine, has been held there. Gamov's grandson participated in the first conference. His arrival at the Great Physics Auditorium on a Harley-Davidson motorcycle was a real sensation. He looked so much like his grandfather, who drove around the Colorado State University campus in a fancy convertible with a giant St. Bernard dog in the passenger seat. George would often bring his favorite pet to the university, much to the delight of his students. We are deliberately not going to talk about George Gamov's vast body of scientific works. There are too many of them, and their topics are too complex for the format of this podcast. But who knows what modern science would have been like if George Gamov from Odessa had not been involved.